Welcome back to History to Go. Today's episode is about the history of Panama. Let's begin. Humans first arrived in Panama 12,000 years ago. The first people who lived there were Native Americans, who traveled down the Americas for generations. The specific early Native American tribes that inhabited Panama were the Chibcha, Choco-Ian, and Cueva peoples. Sorry if I mispronounced those. These tribes extended from northern Panama to modern-day Colombia. There's not much information about them because they had no written records, like the rest of the Americas before European contact. The most we know about the indigenous people of Panama is that they lived by hunting, gathering, and growing crops such as corn, and they lived in small huts of palm leaves hung over a rounded branch structure, with hammocks hung between the interior walls. The Spanish conquistador Rodrigo de Bastidas was the first European to discover Panama, sailing around its eastern coast in 1501. In 1502, Christopher Columbus arrived in Panama on his fourth and final voyage and explored the area. As the number of Europeans who explored Panama grew, the Isthmus of Panama was named Tierra Firma, which means dry land or mainland in English. In 1510, the first permanent European settlement was founded in Panama, which has a long name that I'm going to shorten to Santa Maria. Panama was integrated into the Spanish Empire in 1513 and remained in the Spanish Empire until 1821, which at that point it had been in the Spanish Empire for 308 years. Panama was relatively pirate-free until 1671, when its modern-day capital, Panama City, was sacked by the pirate Henry Morgan. Panama City was in ruins and all of its treasure had been stolen, so it had to rebuild 5 miles away from the original settlement. The original Panama City is called Old Panama nowadays. By the very end of the 1600s, a plan by the name of the Darien Scheme was established by the Kingdom of Scotland to establish a colony in Panama and hopefully become a power in the Americas. The Darien Scheme failed, and Scotland didn't exist as a kingdom 6 years later. Panama and its colonizer Spain were relatively peaceful until 1808, when Spain was invaded by Napoleon. After 1810, South American countries began gaining independence, including Panama, which had become independent in 1819. It joined Gran Colombia, who were unifying South America under their rule. But in 1830, Gran Colombia was dissolved, and the Republic of New Granada took control of Panama. The Panamanian people began efforts to create their own state. Now, Panama was controlled by Colombia, a state that was made up of mostly Colombians and represented by Colombian politicians and officials. Now the Panamanian people wanted their own completely independent state, which they would have to work towards. During the late 1840s and 1850s, Panama's economy boomed because of people using the railways to cross the panhandle of Panama. Overall, 600,000 people crossed Panama in the railroads, bringing profits to the country. That's going to be part 1 of the history of Panama. I hope you enjoyed and have a great day.